Definitely in routing. That is a huge thing, and I know that's something that we really work on constantly. Also in labor, just making sure that we're not being redundant with positions and that we don't have people who could be doing the same job.
Welcome back to Pest Radio, the podcast where we talk with leaders shaping the future of pest control and wildlife industries, from business and growth to marketing, mindset, human resources, and the real stories behind the people in this field. I'm Faye Cebioglu, founder of Digital Karma. We help pest control and home service businesses grow faster by building systems that attract the right leads and convert them into customers. Our focus is simple: real growth, real numbers, and marketing you can actually trust. Today's guest is Melanie Matthews, president of Modern Exterminating. Melanie's story is one of the most interesting transitions you see in this industry because she didn't start in pest control. She spent 17 years in education as a teacher before stepping into a completely different world. What stood out to me about Melanie is how naturally she brings a leadership mindset to operations, team culture, and especially community involvement, something that feels deeply embedded in how their company operates today. So, Melanie, welcome to Pest Radio. I'm really glad that we could make this happen today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and it's great to see you again, Faye. And I'm looking forward to chatting about my journey in pest control.
All right, so take us back to the beginning. How did your journey from education into pest control actually start?
Well, it started on November 24th, 2010, in the Bellagio Wedding Chapel. When I married my husband, I married into this industry and just started learning from him, watching what he was doing. I would ask a lot of questions over the years, would go to occasionally a conference with him. I think my very first thing going with him was Pest World in 2012, which was a great one. And every year I would ask him, can I come work at the company? And he would tell me no. And so in 2018, 2019, he bought two really small companies. And
Uh-huh.
I had 2018, 2019 school year, I had moved to a new school. Absolutely loved it. It was a year of teaching English in the middle school. And that was my favorite year teaching. And he came to me that spring and said, would you like to come to work at the company? And I said, absolutely. And so I totally jumped on it and left teaching on a Friday afternoon and started at Modern the next Monday.
So, what was your first reaction when you step into the industry after 17 years of teaching? Do you feel like you chose pest control or did it choose you?
It totally chose me. I never would have thought ever that I would be in the pest control industry. Teaching, I'm the first to tell you, was not my passion. It was,
Hmm.
I liked it. I never loved it. It was something I knew I was doing at the time, but didn't want to do forever. And so when I got here to Modern, I fell in love. And I will say, though, my first month was kind of rocky. I was hired to be just community relations coordinator, and my job was going to work out of our home. I wasn't even
Hmm.
going to have an office here. I wasn't going to really interact with many of the employees. I was going to handle social media. I would go out in the community, do chamber visits, do community visits, things like that. And that lasted for about a month, and I was bored. I'm not going to lie. And I finally just said, okay, this is maybe not quite what I thought this was going to be. I was looking for it to be a lot more exciting and a lot more hands on, and it was a challenge for that first month.
What surprised you the most in those first 6 months compared to education?
The coming home tired every day and all the
Was it easy with the kids coming home like
no, and as a matter of fact, our joke in our house was always Glenn would come home super tired, and I would be like, what is so wrong that you're so tired? Because I'm the one cooped up in a classroom with 15
Yeah.
kids every day. You're just at your office, you can do whatever you want. And then I was here for about 3 months when I said, oh, wow, now I understand why he was tired all the time. And now, 7 years later, I really understand it. But it's been the best transition ever, and I would never go back and change it.
So going from managing classrooms, I don't know the number, but 30 to 40 kids to leading adults in the field, how did that leadership shift feel?
they used to literally laugh here and they would say that I took on my teacher voice when I started doing a lot of the HR things. But I think I learned so much in the classroom. And this is something I tell people now that I know who are in education who want to get out. And they say, well, I don't know how to do anything else. And you'll be so surprised what skills that translate straight from education into a career like pest control or any other industry. All the leadership skills that I brought in, all the logical thinking and the forward planning and thinking that went into getting a year's worth of meeting standards and meeting these goals, all that came in with this. And I was super shocked to find out that I was able to pull those things in.
So you went to NPMA Academy in Arizona in your first month in the industry alone. I know that because you told me. So what changed for you after that experience?
So that was a huge turning point. Like I said earlier, I was kind of frustrated. So I started working in June officially, and then this was in July, almost exactly 1 month later. And it was in Arizona, so I had to fly out there by myself. Glenn refused to go with me. He said, you're going to go, you're going to meet people, you're going to do your thing. And so up until that point, I had always been Glenn's wife, who was just kind of, traveling with him for things. And so here I was, didn't know super many people. I knew a few, and still wasn't super happy with what I was doing. I was kind of like unfulfilled with just the community relations aspect of it. And I don't know at what point there, but something there, it just really hit. And I remember calling him from my hotel room and I said, we need to talk when I get home. I just don't think that this is enough for me. I think I want to do more. I want an office at our office. I want to get to know the people. I want to be involved with Modern. And he kind of was quiet for a second and then he said, this is so strange. At the time, he had a business coach, and he said, I was meeting with him today for lunch, and he actually asked me, had I considered giving you more of a role and letting you take on some HR responsibilities? Because at that point, HR was very Wild West at Modern. There was not a lot of rules. There were not a lot of procedures being followed. There was a lot of things going on. And he said, what do you think? And I said, yes. I'll do it. I don't even know what this is going to involve, but yes, I'll do it and I'll figure it out. And so I came back the next week and I moved into this little tiny, it's the smallest office in the whole building. It's upstairs, hidden away. I moved into there and just started learning everything that I could. I signed up for an HR class at a local tech school and went and did that for a few days to learn just kind of a crash course in what do I need to know. And we outsource some of our HR things to a company, so I started meeting with them of, what can I be doing here? And the result was we ended up in about 6 months having some PTO policies for the first time ever. We had time tracking for the first time, actual following the time tracking, and we had a handbook, the first one in company history. So that was kind of what I started out doing.
So can we say that going to NPMA Academy in Arizona was like a turning point where you thought, oh, I can do more?
Yes. Academy will always hold a special place in my heart just because not only is it a great fun event, but it was the one that really showed me and that there was more for me in this industry and that I had a role here and I needed to step up and step into that role.
So very quickly after that, you got involved in Women in Pest Management and became the first chair in South Carolina. How did that opportunity came about?
So one of the first things I did the first week, I emailed Allie Allen at NPMA and said, hey, I saw this online. And Glenn had talked about women in professional pest management over the years. And he had told me, he said, I think you should probably think about getting involved. And so I emailed her and said, hey, I'd like to be involved. And she said, great, I'll put you on the committee. And so she put me on the committee, started kind of learning there. And then South Carolina had some hit and miss with trying to put a professional women in pest management here. And two of the women who had been working on it for a while reached out to me and said, we knew you from before you got in the industry. We're super excited you're here. Would you like to help? And so I jumped in with them. And a few months later, they took it to the board and said, it's time for us to have this as an official committee. And we would like for Melanie to be the chair. And it went from there. And I was chair for several years.
Just right after 1 month, first academy, and then very quickly after Women in Pest Management. Looking back, how important was early networking and association involvement in building your confidence or adding more value to modern exterminating?
It was extremely important. And originally my job here was going to be networking just for the company. And I never even considered that there would be the broader aspect of networking in the industry and what impact that would have on me. Over the years, I've met so many people that have become friends. They've become mentors. They're the people that hey, here's an issue. What can you help me with? And how can I handle this situation? It also introduced me to the Executive Leadership Program through NPMA, which I did in 2023 and graduated from that. And also did the South Carolina Leadership Program the same year, which was very interesting. And, all of those things really showed me that getting those connections throughout the industry were so important. They've not only have they shaped how I work here in the business, but they've shaped me personally as well, because believe it or not, I'm actually very introverted and quiet and shy. It has really forced me to come out of it. When I tell people that, they don't believe it, but it's really true. And so I always tell the story that I almost failed public speaking in college. I mean, I think I passed it by 1 point because I was so terrified to get up in front of people and speak. And that networking and just that support group that has come from industry contacts has been so instrumental in changing that now that doesn't bother me. I never thought I would say that.
Yeah, I have a lot of customers. They are not very involved in the association. They learn a lot of things from me, and I can understand that. Why are you not joining these events, all these great networking, opportunities? So I really believe in that. And you improve yourself as a person, like you said, and also as a company more.
Absolutely. And I've had the opportunity to hear so many wonderful speakers on so many different things that, I've just learned so much. And my husband would argue that I want to go to too many things and be too involved.
I see that your role at Modern Exterminating evolved very quickly from PR to different things, different departments, like first HR, then what happened?
So from there, not too long after that, I kept that part, but my husband asked if I would take on some of the leadership responsibilities. He wanted to put together a leadership team. He had been doing it for about 20 years, and he was getting, I guess, tired is a good way to put it, looking for something a little new to come in and help him. And so I took on what we called at the time organizational development. And that was putting together a leadership team, working with that leadership team, helping get some structure in the company. Over those years, we started to make some changes in how we operated and putting SOPs in place and different things along those lines. And so I did that for, I think, about a year. And then he moved me to vice president and working directly under him. Then he had a 2-year period where he was South Carolina Pest Control Association president. He was his Rotary Club president, and he was Associated Pest Management president, all at the same time. And so before he took those on, he came to me and he said that he would like to step down as president, that he wanted to just be an owner. He, would always be there to bounce ideas, talk to, help me with anything I needed. But he needed to focus on those things for those 2 years, and would I be interested in stepping up? And I was very nervous, but I said, okay, sure, I'll give this a try. And so it's been 2 years now, and we feel like it's working.
So what changed, now stepping into the role of president, what changed for you personally and also professionally?
It required me to really step outside my comfort zone. Think about my confidence, and not second guess everything I do. I mean, of course, we all second guess things, but believing that, what I'm doing is the right thing and seeking the advice of others on making those big decisions. That's been a very big part of it for me. Personally, it has, I feel like, stepped me to a different professional level than I was before, just in how I think about the things I do, how I act, and even, how I communicate with others.
How has your background in education shaped your leadership style today? Because we are talking about 17 years of education. So how that helped you or shaped your leadership style today?
One thing I think it really did is it taught me that there cannot be a strict black and white on things. There's always a gray area. And learning to see with all the different styles of employees that we have, of people we work with, being able to work with all of them and not just say it has to be this way, but looking at what is best for this situation, what is best for this person, for this client.
How is a dynamic evolving working with your husband as a third generation owner while you now lead as president? How things are going also at home, you know?
It is a lot of fun. We have always said we work very well together. We make a great team. And when we have a project, we do great. Not long after we got married, we bought a place at a beach near us. And then we spent some time renovating that. And that was a project for us. And then we bought a new house. And so we were kind of out of, all right, there's no more real estate we want to take on as a project. So what can we do? And so coming to work at Modern it's been a project. And it's given us something really to pull together as a team and just go, all right, we've got this goal and we have to work together to get to it. And I won't say we get along and agree on everything all the time, but we usually look at each other's side and each other's opinion and try to meet somewhere in the middle on it.
I see a lot of couples in pest control industry, and what I see at them, I don't know, it's just my perfect perspective, but they seem really happy.
I think you're right. I think there are a lot who are, and I think it's a lot of fun to work with your spouse. I
Hmm.
mean, there's days where we're both kind of like, all right, we spend all day at work together. We go home, we spend all evening together, and and I will say that I do like occasionally go travel by myself, and he'll do his things by himself, so that we do get a little bit of break from each other, and we do try to talk about things that aren't work. Sometimes I will say it almost always comes back to work, but we've gotten much better than we have when I first started on. Let's talk about something besides work tonight, and not every meal is a work talk kind of thing.
Hmm.
But I will say, like, that's sometimes outside of here is where we have our best conversations, our best discussions, and our best brainstorming on, all right, what do we want for the business and what do we see in the future?
I think it creates also a different bond because you aim the same goal. You are so ambitious about one specific thing, making it better together.
Right. And I certainly don't want him to say that I've done something and messed it up. So I'm very competitive with him.
Hmm.
And so I want to make sure that what I'm doing is something that he's going to be proud of.
That's nice. From your perspective, what is the biggest operational challenge pest control companies face today? What do you think?
I think definitely hiring and retaining employees that want to be there and that want to do a good job. Moving above just how to differentiate yourself, because every day in our market we see a new company name on the truck, on something, on social media, whatever it is, and just always looking at what makes me different. What is our differentiation from that company and from every other company? A lot of our similar size, local family owned companies in this area have sold. And so we are in a position now where we're one of the few larger companies that are still standing in this market.
Where do companies lose efficiency without realizing it?
Definitely in routing. I feel like that is a huge thing, and I know that's something that we really work on constantly. I have a fantastic operations manager, and that is her focus, is how can we be more efficient in working on that. Also in labor, just making sure that we're not being redundant with positions and that we don't have people who could be doing, two people doing the same job one person could be doing, and some of those things.
And what makes a company feel truly well run to you?
I think definitely having smooth operations, a smooth leadership, and a leadership that's strong from the top. One thing Glenn and I really pride ourselves on is we're not going to ask you to do something we wouldn't be willing to do ourselves. And we're going to set that example of what we want our leadership and what we want our company to be like. I feel like all those things work together. And of course, like, just having a great staff, having people who want to be there, they love their job, and they're there for the clients, but they're also there for their colleagues.
How do you align field technicians and office operations efficiently and also effectively? So, do they get along well, and how do you balance that?
That is a wonderful question, because when I first got here, they could not stand each other. And nobody held back on letting the other department know. And it was always from my technicians, the office is their fault. And from the office, it's the technician's fault. But I feel like we have come so far in that. I feel like right now
Hmm.
we have improved our communication between them so well. we have them working so closely together that they see, that it's not this one person, it's not this one department's fault, that here are the bigger picture things going. And that was a huge challenge, just to get out of that mindset. And I'll be honest, we've changed staff. One thing we did look at several years ago was, who are the people that may not still need to be here, that are not on board with our vision, they're not on board with our core values, and they're not on board with the future of where Modern's headed. And that's not a bad thing sometimes. Sometimes that's a good thing. And, so we've brought in people who did never know that culture before, and that's really helped in that situation as well. But I feel like communication is the absolute best thing to making sure that they both are on the same page.
Do you think companies underutilize the data and systems they already have?
Absolutely. I know for a fact we do. And that's something that our Vice President of Administration and our Operations Manager both are always, how can we take what data we have? What are we missing in data, from whether it's from our CRM or whether it's from one of our other software programs we use? What is the data that we can get there? How can we pull it all together? And how can we use that to be a more efficient company?
When things get chaotic, what's your approach to restoring structure?
I step back, I shut my door, and my husband, he said, well, then you go cry for a few minutes. And I'm like, that's very rare that I do that. But I do shut my door, and I like to organize. I want to sit down. I want to put things on paper. I want to look at every single part of it that I can look at, and I just want to step away from things. I say I thrive in chaos, but I also don't. And this comes back from teaching, I'm sure. I love structure, and I love organization. And so when it gets chaotic around here, they know I'm going to shut my door, I'm going to go in, I'm going to organize whatever I need to get together, and then I'm going to sit down and look at it on paper and go, okay, let me take a breath. This is what my next step is, and then I'm just going to go through step by step to put it back in where it needs to be.
So you have around 29 technicians, right?
We do.
Okay. How do you maintain alignment and engagement across the team?
We try to stay as communicative as possible. We have a departmental Monday huddle every Monday morning with their supervisor. We use Slack as our method of communication across
That's
the
amazing.
board.
This is the first time, I guess, I heard that a pest control company is using Slack.
Oh, wow. We love Slack. It is so great. We have channels set up for our branches. We have channels set up for our departments. We have a general channel. We even have some really fun ones. Like, we have a minor league baseball team here, and we get a season ticket package every year. So we have a channel for that, and we put out their tickets and who wants them, and they can claim them on there. We have a kudos channel, which is everybody's favorite. Anytime a customer sends in a job well done, a 5-star, all of that goes on there, so the entire company gets to see who's gotten recognized, or sometimes it's what the whole company is getting recognized for. We have one we call the Hangout, and that's when everybody can just put all their fun stuff. We get lots of fun memes and jokes, and that's where everybody can kind of break up some of the monotony and get a little humor in. And then we also have one that is for recipes. We have a lot of people here who like to cook, and of course some of us here like to eat. So people are always putting fun recipes on there for us to try.
And I know you're so much involved also community work, community service. So how do employees respond when community service is part of their paid work day?
We have had an amazing response of overwhelmingly people love it and are excited. We hear that all the time. Oh, thank you for introducing us to this organization. Thank you for letting us have the time to go and help here. And we started this not this past year, the year before, and it was a once a month project, and we had teams. We divided everybody in the company up into these teams, and they got one time during the year to go out and do it. And then this year it went so well, we wanted teams to go out twice a year. So we've kind of changed up how we do that. And we've only had one person who is no longer with us ever complain and say that they did not want to do it and that they did not appreciate us having them go do community service, which was very disheartening because that's something that we feel like this community has been exceptional to our family and to our company and to our employees for over 70 years. And we feel like this is the least we can do to give back to our community is help out with organizations that just need a little hands on some things. As a matter of fact, we have a service project tomorrow.
What are you
People will be
doing
going
tomorrow?
out. They're going to be going to a food bank and working in their warehouse for a few hours.
That's good. Amazing.
It's always exciting.
I'm sure also it adds value on, morale, retention, and also team bonding, right?
Oh, 100%. It's some of the most fun days that they do. We'll either go to breakfast beforehand or lunch, depending on what time of day we're doing the project. So everybody gets to sit around, talk, show pictures of their kids. What'd you do this weekend? What are you doing on your next vacation? And it's just a break in the monotony for them. And they get to do things that maybe would not necessarily do. They get to step out of their comfort zone. A few months ago, we did trash pickup on the side of the road, and that's not something that we really think about doing. And one of the things that I heard, I couldn't stay the whole time, but several people said that it made them feel great because neighbors in that neighborhood stopped and thanked them for what they were doing. So it's always great that we get that feedback, and I know it makes them feel good, and that's a boost to their morale that they're doing something that our community really appreciates.
From my perspective, or what I hear from you, is also ensure, this culture you created over the years and, stays consistent as the company grows because every year you're growing, right?
Absolutely. We are getting ready to open next month. Our first branch outside of the Midlands market. It'll be about an hour and a half from here. And that's one of the biggest things as we've hired the person who's going to start that branch up for us is as soon as we have enough staff there, I want community service days built in for them as well in that. And it happens to be in my hometown. So I'm very excited about being able to put the community service part that's so important to us here into my hometown as well.
How did that start at community service culture originally at Modern Exterminating?
So Glenn's grandparents were very involved in our community. They were one of, I forgot how many couples that donated money to start the Historic Columbia Foundation. His grandmother was very involved in the arts. His granddad was on the Salvation Army board for a while. So they were very involved in the community. That was something that was important to them. And it slipped off for a long, long time. And then when I came back, Glenn and I talked, and we felt like that was something that was very important to us. We felt, again, like this company has gotten so much from this community that this is the least we can do is give back to them. Community service is important to me and Glenn both in our personal lives, and we wanted to bring that in, and we felt like this was also a great way to honor his grandparents' legacy.
So, how do you decide which causes to focus on? I know you have supported different organizations like local orphan relief programs or other community programs. So, how do you decide that?
We do a variety of things. I sit on several boards, so does Glenn. So occasionally we will say, hey, let's work out with one of the boards that we sit on. We also have a lot of clients that are nonprofits. One of those is Mercy, Illness Recovery Centers Incorporated. And so we felt like this is another way for us to give back to them. And so usually we help with one of their events each year as part of our community service. We also ask the employees, what's important to you? And they love animals. Almost every person in our company loves animals. And so almost every year we get hey, let's work with PALS or let's work with Palmetto Lifeline, and sometimes both. And occasionally I found out about Midlands Orphan Relief from an event I attended and was just super impressed by what they were doing and brought it back and said, hey, I think this should be one of our upcoming service projects. They are in need of hands to help in their warehouse.
How do you decide the budget for that? I'm sure you used different budget last year and this year different. So, how do you decide that?
It's very simple. We don't have a formula for it. We kind of look at what they need. So what we do is every year at the end of the year in December, Glenn and I look at organizations that we want to donate money to. And this last year we had 4 organizations and we gave $16,000. We also, throughout the year, we do sponsorships for events. I always say that they're really not budgeted. This is something that's a need. This is something that is and so we try to really just jump in and see what we can put into there. So in addition to what we gave as actual checks to those organizations at the end of the year, we're still doing little things throughout the year. And we're hoping this year to double that 16,000 at the end of the year. So, our fingers are crossed.
I think you
Be
can
able to
do
do
that
that.
with that enthusiasm.
We really want to. There's so many great organizations here that need it. And as we grow into Spartanburg, we're going to find places there that we also want to do it.
That's one of the things I like most about US, that, nonprofit organizations, they really work locally really good.
Yes. They
You know better
do.
than me, of course, but that is one of the most, best things I like about US culture. So you have a really fun tradition also, the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Tell me about it.
So we started that a few years ago. Our town has one of the largest St. Patrick's Day celebrations in the Southeast. About 40,000 people come in for that one day. They have, great bands, but one of the most fun parts of it, they have a parade, they have a 5K and then the parade. And so we decided a few years ago, you know what, we should put a float in the parade. And so what we ended up doing, we put one of our trucks in. We invite all of our employees, a bunch of friends. They all come out and we pass out. One year we did candy. The last couple of years we did these shamrock bead necklaces with our logo on it, which were a huge hit. Everybody loved those. And, we just have the best time. It takes us about an hour to walk down the street from where it starts. And then when we get into the area, it's known as 5 Points, they announce us and tell who we are. And it gets a lot of attention. And the first year, I ordered a praying mantis costume because I thought that would be fun. I love mascots. That's a little fun fact about me.
I know, I
And
remember your pictures from Pest World this last year in Orlando, so Disney World,
love
yeah.
it. So I thought, this will be fun. I will get this costume. And we actually were doing the 5K that year, too. And so we did the 5K, and then I hurried in and changed into costume. Well, for years, we had a roach costume that we would occasionally use. And one of my best friends said, I'll wear the roach costume, and I'll go with you. So we did. And I won't lie, we had a couple of mimosas that morning and danced down the street and had the best time we've ever had. The kids wanted their pictures made with us, and everybody was waving and yelling at us. Now, several years later, it's become a thing where I actually get asked, is the praying mantis and the roach coming to the parade this year? So it's become kind of a little thing for us on this, and people love it. And she and I have the best time doing it.
I feel like, you had an experience in education for 17 years, but it seems like you had an experience in PR.
I think I might have missed my calling early on, but we did. We had the best time, and the parade is so much fun. And I just love seeing all the smiles on people's faces. And my favorite is occasionally we'll get a child, and we've had a couple of girls recently who will, oh my gosh, a bug! I want to be a bug person when I grow up. And so that's always super exciting when we hear something like that. And we'll also hear our customers who will yell out at us, and all of our friends or come out there, and it's just a good time, and we try to make the most of it. And we feel like it's important to be professional, it's important to be business, but it's also important to have fun and make it fun.
You create an environment like in your community, like it's not only a company, it's like a family thing, with your local community.
It is. We really try to make it feel like that.
This really stands you out from other companies, I guess.
We feel like it does, and we really feel like this is something that we have created kind of a little niche of, that we're here for the community, and that we are here to have a good time and make everything fun, make bugs fun, make the industry fun.
So how do you think these events like play in shaping your company's public identity?
I think people really start to associate us with they're out everywhere. We see and we hear that a lot is we saw Glenn at something, we saw Melanie at something this week, we saw Kimberly at something, and I feel like that's a huge push for us is that we are so involved in the community. We're involved with several of the chambers in the local area. We're involved with all these organizations, and I think people really see that we are not just we're going to be here in office hours. We're here at night. We're here weekends. We're really out there, trying not just to make a name for ourselves, but create those connections and those relationships with people in our community, because we feel like that's the most important thing. And that, if one day we get business from them, that's great. But if not, we've met a lot of really great people, and we've had some great experiences.
How do you balance professionalism with personality in a service-based business like pest control?
I think you just have to have a real balance on that. Glenn and I were talking about it when we were looking at the questions of, is there a percentage? Some days, 75% professional, 25% fun, and some days it's 75% fun and 25% professional. But I think also thinking constantly of people are watching you. You know, people are watching your social media, people are watching you when you're out in the community, and whether you're wearing something with your company logo on there or not, you're automatically associated with it. And, you know, just remembering that that is part of your identity and that people can't always separate you from that identity.
So I know you just mentioned that you are a teacher, you and being a teacher on Friday and start working as a pest control professional on Monday. And I think this industry also help you improve yourself a lot, you just mentioned. And if someone listening today, you also mentioned you used to be an introvert. So today feels like they're not ready yet, not experienced enough or confident enough, but they know what, they want to grow in this industry. What would you tell them?
I would tell them just do it. Nobody is ever ready. Nobody is ever going to feel like they are 100% there. I am the queen of imposter syndrome. And so I totally understand that. And I think it's just every day telling yourself, I can do this. I'm going to step out of my box. I'm going to challenge myself. And I'm just going to do this.
So, Melanie, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all your experience, journey, and all these great contribution. Your PR experience, especially.
Thank you.
And I think the work you are doing, not only as a pest control company, but as a person and with your husband also in your community, is amazing.
I appreciate that.
I know our listeners will take a lot of ideas from you because you stand really differently compared to most of pest control companies. So how you do it, how you communicate, not only with your employees, but also the community, how you think to your community. So it has been a great having you on the podcast. Thank you very much.
I have enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate it.